All right, I'd like to call the regular Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Kelly.
Ms. Flynn? Here. Ms. Stewart?
Here.
Ms. Patchen?
Excused.
Mr. Rakowski?
Here.
Mr. Singh?
Excused.
Mr. Wolf?
Excused.
Mr. Zob?
Here.
Ms. Gadsden?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here. Fire exits, please.
Emergency exits are at the back of the LGI.
All right, in tonight's workshop, we have Rhinebeck and Associates Architect coming to speak about the capital project. So thank you very much for coming, and if you want to use the podium right there, the podium's up.
Good evening. My name is Philip Zemke. I'm a principal at Rhinebeck Architecture and Planning. This is my partner, who's also a principal, John Sharkey. John's been working with the district for a number of years, doing a lot of work here for the Excel project. We're going to give you a short report on the capital project. We had provided you with copies of it. I'm going to be paraphrasing it. I'm not going to be reading the entire report. But basically, we're going to talk about the district goals and needs, the building condition survey overview, the proposed improvements, project budgets, project schedules, and then next steps. So the basic facility improvement goals, your built assets are what you need to keep functioning. They need to be kept safe. They're your major built investment. They have to be monitored, maintained, and repaired and kept in service. Your facilities are well maintained and they're inspected every year for safety, but they're also old and aging. Some of the systems are getting at the end of their useful life, and then there are constant code changes and educational changes that require you to constantly be keeping the buildings up to life safety issues, structural issues, and then also educational issues. In 2015, there was a building condition survey done, and basically the building condition survey reviews the building's physical conditions. And while that's being reviewed, there are also some educational items that get included in that building condition survey. I think you saw the copy of the building condition survey. We issued it to the district in late 2015. The district has had that for a while. And a lot of the information that you're going to see tonight is based on the building condition survey. So working with the Facilities and Operations Committee and the administration staff and us and the maintenance staff, we put together a program that will start to improve your district's facilities and move you along in terms of meeting the needs of your district. The State Education Department, this is the building condition survey, the State Education Department requires that the districts evaluate buildings every 5 years. We did this in 2015. We noted over $18 million worth of need for building condition survey items. The facility needs that we found were basically about replacing old mechanical items, replacing worn pavements, exterior envelope repairs, interior improvements, and accessibility improvements. There's also a rating system inherent in the building condition survey. Two out of your 6 school buildings were rated unsatisfactory because one of the systems in the building condition survey, or maybe 2 or 3 of those systems, were rated unsatisfactory, which caused the building to become rated unsatisfactory according to the SED guidelines. And those items are basically lack of accessible toilets on every level, in terms of the ADA requirements, and then also heating and ventilating systems that are at the end of their useful life. So and then while we were doing this and working with the committee, program improvements were also identified, including classroom renovations at the science rooms and the home and career rooms at the middle school, and then there's recommendations for a new artificial turf field at Hammond Field. This is the building condition survey rating system. The building condition survey itself has over 115 items, and they're considered systems. And if any of those items are then rated, whether they're health, safety, or structural, not all of them are in that rating, but if any system is found to be unsatisfactory that is rated or considered a health, safety, or structural item, then you have to classify the entire building as unsatisfactory. And it's not that your building is in any danger of being less safe, less accommodating, or less unhealthy. It's just that there was a system somewhere in there that said, or that we determined was unsatisfactory, which caused the building to be rated unsatisfactory. And you can see from this list, there are unsatisfactories for any system rated unsatisfactory. None of your systems were found to be non-functional or at critical failure, which would then, put you in a different and worse category. Your buildings are in fairly good shape. They're well maintained. They're getting old. This was a summary of what we found in the building condition survey, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and this includes not only your school buildings, but your administrative buildings, your maintenance buildings, your field houses, and so forth. And there's where we indicated which of the buildings are unsatisfactory based on the systems that we found. The project that we're talking about today basically is about your school buildings. There's some improvements for some of the field houses and bus garages, but primarily it's about the school buildings. The total cost was $18 million. $2 million of that, if you were to fix all of the unsatisfactory systems, would cost you about $2 million of that. So the district started to plan for improvements. The Board of Education, the Facilities Committee reviewed the building conditions survey findings. We looked at other program needs. And then also, and part of this is also looking at your current capital project debt service. The teaching staff, the administrative staff, maintenance staff, fiscal advisor, and architects worked with the committee, providing suggestions and data. And so there was a list of, I don't know how many, like 200, 300 items that were boiled down to a project that we're talking about tonight. A review of the district's debt service indicates that there's retiring debt in 2019, and there's also another amount of retiring debt in 2022. And that allows the district to do without any, marginal increase in taxes to do a project in 2019 and then another one in 2022, pending voter approval. This is a brief overview of your buildings. Your buildings were built. The earliest one was 1928. There was most of the buildings were built between 1954 and 1963. That puts most of your buildings at least 60 years old, with the oldest one being 90 years old. The high school was built in 2002. Another factor that affects school buildings and sort of kicks in requirements that you do things is the Americans with Disabilities Act. In 1991, the act was passed, and it requires that all public buildings or buildings of public accommodation be accessible to the handicapped. And typically that means having accessible parking areas, accessible entrances, and then there's a main route through the building that has to go to the major components in the building. In a school building, you're not required to make every classroom accessible as long as your programs are accessible. But the ADA also requires that you have accessible toilet rooms on every level. And that's where we found some issues in some of your buildings that were built prior to this requirement. And so there's some accommodations that we can make to make the existing toilet rooms that you have accessible to meet the requirements of the ADA. These are the unsatisfactory buildings. Again, these are unsatisfactory systems. So at the Roundabout Middle School, second floor toilet rooms are not accessible in the A and B wings. At the D wing stairs, there are two stairs that are really open to, the first floor is open to the second floor. SED requires smoke doors so that if there's something happening on the first floor, smoke does not go up to the second floor and the exits are still protected. And then also there's a requirement to add areas of refuge, and that's more for part of the handicapped accessibility issue. Someone who is unable to use the stairs can go into an enclosed stairwell and wait for assistance. At the Sargent Elementary School, accessible toilet rooms on the second floor and lower level should be installed. In the kitchen, we found that the makeup air unit was at the end of its useful life, and also the unit ventilating system was at the end of its useful life. Those were considered unsatisfactory. It made the building unsatisfactory. At the Rosenmeyer Fieldhouse, there are no accessible toilet spaces, and there's really no accessible path to it. There are the building is accessible once you get to it, but there's no paved path that takes you to it. So these, as in any project, these are the items that you want to do first. So for this 2019 project, these are the recommended building and site improvements. You know, at the Beacon High School, the field and track would be improved. There's roof repairs and roof overlays that need to be done. There's exterior wall repairs. If you look at the swimming pool, exterior walls, you'll see efflorescence, you'll see mortar joints starting to fail. Those need to be fixed. And then also the lockers and the scoreboard at the pool should be replaced. At the middle school, the unsuitable or the unsatisfactory items should be done, the toilet rooms, the smoke separation, the areas of refuge. There's some work that you need to do at the front loop to improve the drainage. And then there's a list of other items for the interior that improve the accessibility, improve the condition of your interior and exterior doors, roof repairs, replace the wheelchair lift. And then for program improvements, upgrade the home and careers classroom and upgrade the science labs. And then also, because the West Wing has a tendency to overheat on hot summer days from the sun, installing an AC system, an air conditioning system in that wing so that in the afternoons it's comfortable for education. Forestall, similar items. These are not major items there, but they're items that you should be looking at. There's exits that don't go into separate smoke areas, toilet partitions, accessible handrails, carpets, ceilings, rooftop ventilation units. And then there's still, when you see the words VAT in terms of flooring, that's vinyl asbestos flooring. Most of the flooring that you have that remains vinyl asbestos is sound in an okay condition, but wherever you can, you want to remove it, because when you want to do maintenance, it's a special process if you have to do anything in that area. So removing the VAT and replacing it with vinyl composition tile is always a wise thing to do. Glenham, drainage at the front drop-off loop, interior and exterior doors, railings at the kindergarten stairs, carpets. There were carpets in a few of the classrooms, and the maintenance on the carpets are hard to do, so it's better to replace them with VCT. And then there's one particular classroom that has an egress window with a ladder that we think it would be safer if you just had a door that brought you to an adjacent classroom where the egress window exited onto grade. Sargent Elementary, that is one of your older schools. The kitchen makeup air unit is at the end of its useful life, same with the unit ventilating system. And then providing accessible toilets is also suggested. The same thing, interior and exterior doors, exterior masonry repairs. This building, the brick facade needs some work, needs repointing. There's one of the newer wings was built with carpet, and maintenance on those, as we just said, is tough to do. Rooftop ventilation units, ADA, and interior work. South Avenue School, similar things. Kitchen makeup unit, replace unit ventilators. Those were considered not as serious as the ones at Sargent. They should be replaced. And then same kinds of things, ADA handrails, area of refuge at the second floor for accessibility issues, exterior doors, flooring, some exterior repairs, fans, and then handrails at the gym bleachers. And then there are buildings that are not your school buildings that need addressing. The bus and maintenance building, bus garage, it's recommended to have a new emergency generator there. And then all of the metal work that comes in contact with the ground has been corroding. So all of like the bottoms of the door frames, the bottom of the overhead doors are starting to rust. So those need to be corrected. Rosenmeyer Fieldhouse, that's where we provide accessible path and toilet rooms. It's a wood-sided building. The fascia is starting to fall out, and the new lockers are required. The Hammond Fieldhouse, one of the recommendations from the district was to renovate the lower area for a concession stand, and it also has some wood siding that needs repairs, and then the toilet rooms should have exhaust fans. At the Fieldhouse, that's a small space. During the summer, it overheats, so all the interior finishes have really overheated and are no longer, the wallpaper's not staying on the wall and the floor's not staying on the floor. So we recommend putting in some sort of air exchange or air conditioning system and changing out those finishes to make it usable again. So that's the basic scope of the 2019 capital project budget. And then here's the budget broken down by school. These numbers were taken in part from the building conditions survey, and then there are some other items added in that were estimated as we went along. Total project cost is just under $9,895,200. And that's a project cost. It includes construction costs, contingency. It also includes what we call incidental costs, which is the cost of the district to do the project. The construction cost and contingency is what the contractors would be bidding on. That would be their budget. That would be the construction budget. And you have a contingency because of the unknowns because we're so in such preliminary design stages. But the incidental costs include professional fees such as your fiscal advisor, design team, attorneys, insurance. It would include things like testing during construction. It would include any other cost that would be related to the project. In this case, it might include furnishings and fixtures that you purchase as part of the project. Those are all aidable as incidental expenses. And then according to your fiscal advisor, Bernie Donegan's group, based on the retiring debt, the cost of this project would result in no marginal increase in the tax levy. And as we go through the project, not all of these items are fully aidable by the state education department. So we have to review that, and we have to make sure that as much of the project is aidable as possible, and that will affect that marginal increase. But it's not expected to be, it's expected to be zero or just add. But again, we can't say with any definite definition, but your fiscal advisor will be here, I think, later in August to come and make a presentation about the actual numbers.
Right, he's planning to come at the next meeting on the 28th to go over the how the financials work for the project, so you'll know the details of that.
This is the capital project schedule. We are in the month labeled A. We see a dollar sign. So we've been working with the committees and the districts since January. All the items have been reviewed. The costs have been compiled. So we now know pretty much what the scope is. We now know pretty much what the budget is. And so moving forward, there's confirmation of the scope. It's affirmation of all the work that's been done so far. Part of the statutory work that the district has to do is a SECRA review, or state, the
State Environmental
Quality Review Act. Right. And before you take an action on a project, you need to review the environmental impacts. And there are different levels of impacts. Most of what we're talking about are type 2 actions, which do not require any further review than declaring them type 2, because they've been reviewed at various levels when the law was passed, and they've determined that most of these things, which are renovation items of existing systems, do not have an environmental impact. So type 2, you declare them type 2, and your SECRA work is done. If you're disturbing a large area, for example, and in this case it would be the artificial turf field, the artificial turf field is large enough and has requirements for drainage that kick in the requirements for an environmental review, because it's considered a type 1 action. And so the SECRA review consists of basically reviewing what you have. We have a consultant that will be providing a proposal to the district that has done this in numerous school districts. But it's about determining what your type 1 action is, reviewing what that work is, preparing the environmental assessment form, and then also as part of the SECRA requirements, you need to declare yourself lead agency. But before you can do that, you need to send letters to all of the interested parties, which include the city, the state, the DEC, Board of Health, whoever might be involved. And this is what our consultant would help to identify. They are all sent letters that say, the district wants to be the lead agency. Do you have any problems with that requirement? And you have to wait 30 days for their response. So there's a time frame where we need to do the initial SECRA review, determine what we need to do, prepare those lead agency letters, send them out, wait 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, you can then do your seeker review. You can declare lead agency, and then you can look at the type 1 action, and there's the environmental assessment form that you go through, and you determine whether or not there's an environmental impact that cannot be mitigated. There's always an environmental impact from construction, but it's always short-term, and it's always mitigated when it's done. So you review that, and then you come to the conclusion that either there is a negative declaration, meaning there's no environmental impact, or there is an environmental impact, and here's how you're going to mitigate it. And then again, our consultant will help run through that entire process. That happens at the end of the 30 days, and then at that point, you can also declare or make the resolution to set the vote for the referendum. And you have to do that 45 days before the vote. So there's two statutory timeframes, the 30-day lead agency period and then the 45 days resolution to referendum period. And then you try to time that so that you're doing the lead agency and the resolution at your board meeting. So it's not just 30 days or 45 days, it might be more based on your schedule. But if we're looking at a vote for December 5th, then we need to be looking at seeker in time to initiate the process at your next board meeting in terms of like authorizing us to proceed. We would then come back fairly quickly and get the lead agency process started. And so then somewhere on or about, is it October 16?
October 16.
That would be about 45 days before, I think that's a board meeting date, that would be 45 days before the referendum. So this process really needs to get started soon in order for you to meet those requirements. At the same time, starting now would be your public information process, in terms of getting out to the public, making presentations, distributing this, putting this on your website or however you distribute information to the public. We'll be more than happy to meet with any group that you want us to talk about the project, to explain what the project is about. Public vote would be December 5th. If there's a successful vote, then the design begins. We've done a lot of review work, but we haven't done the actual design and engineering. And then there's a process of about 6 or so months, 8 months perhaps, to do that. Then it goes to the State Education Department for approval. Right now, because of their backlog and their lack of staffing, that process is taking 8 months. But they're also in the process, as we speak, of trying to improve that. They're going to be going out and getting private firms to do review work. They're streamlining the process. So we think and they're starting that in November, they're going to work all the bugs out. We think by the time this project hits SED, the time frame for review should be much shorter. Their goal, SED's stated goal, and I think they're working towards that, is to make their review process no longer than 6 weeks, so that districts can confidently plan projects and know when their project is going to be reviewed and approved. Like an 8-month time frame right now, it doesn't work for anyone. Because you can send a project up there. You want to get your projects out to bid in January and February when contractors are hungry and numbers are low. Anytime you start going into March or April and bidding something, you start losing the summer. You get higher prices, and then your long lead items are very hard to get. And it's very difficult. So it's difficult to plan. So they're working on that. So this schedule after approval may change based on those things, but it's not likely that there will be work or that we will get things through SED and approved in time to do work in the summer of 2018. It would be in 2019 when the work would start. So that
would align with the debt service retirement as well.
Right.
So.
That's right. And so that's the scope, that's the budget, that's the schedule. The next step, as you said, continue with the public information and community outreach, review and confirm the project scopes and budget. One of the things that we have to say is, we did the building condition survey in 2015. We want to go back through your buildings with your facilities people and review and confirm them. We want to quantify them. We want to make sure that what we're looking at is what we need to do. And then you need to review and confirm project funding with your fiscal advisor, and then begin the seeker process and confirm that there are no environmental impacts. And that's what I have to say. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
Does anybody have any questions? Bill?
Yeah, the survey also had listed two other buildings that had unsatisfactory conditions, the maintenance building and the central administration building.
Yes.
But they're not, I didn't see anything addressing those in the first phase. What's the reason for that?
The administration building has most of its issues have to do with accessibility, and the cost to make that building accessible is high, and you get no building aid for that.
Right.
And so trying to resolve that without aid is sort of a difficult thing to do.
Right, so the Facilities and Operations Committee, we're going to be, as soon as we get the process going, like we said, there's a 2022 project. Actually, should be a larger amount. And so that was where we were going to look for, there's a number of issues related to the administrative building and try to resolve all those in the 2022 timeframe.
And maintenance building, same thing?
Yes, the maintenance building, let me find that one. Yeah, we call it the maintenance.
Sometimes referred to as the garage, maintenance building.
Yeah, I'm not drawing.
Rosen something.
Oh, no, it wasn't the bus maintenance garage. It was,
Roundhouse Sergeant Admin Building, Rosen.
yes, the upper field house, the
All
Rosenmeyer.
except for
Maintenance building is listed as well as being unsatisfactory.
Right, and I'm looking at my building condition survey and saying, okay, what was
Take a
wrong
look. I
with
thought
it?
we got all the unsats except for the admin building. That's a thought.
Maintenance building would not get building aid either.
Right,
Right,
no.
so I'm not sure
That
what
was
the
one of the
condition was.
Yeah, I think it had to do with accessibility and level changes within that building.
Okay. And then there's one other building that, known as the Astor Building, that's the multi-story building. I mean, we don't use it, but that, I'm assuming it was in the 2015 survey as well.
It was not. It's been abandoned. We
Right.
did not review it.
So, I mean, at some point in time, it needs to be reviewed just to make sure it's still structurally sound and there's no repairs that need to be done in order to
Right.
make sure it doesn't fall
Right.
down.
It has a major presence on that campus,
Right.
and from what we understand from when we were working with Henry was that there are so many hazardous materials in there that to abate it, to do anything there would be very expensive. So we did not address that, but I think at some point the district should address that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Bill.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I only had two. One was answered, whether or not the projects were aidable, and that was answered. And then, are the areas that are unsatisfactory, are they subject to any penalty, like because we're outside of some of the rules?
No. No, there's no penalty for having an unsatisfactory system or a building. When you submit a project to SED, what they want to see when you do that is your 5-year plan that shows how you're addressing the issues found in the building condition survey. They would like them to be considered first, but they don't use it as a penalty. They do not use that as a bar that you have to cross or get under in order to get approval. But there should be a plan to address them. Right, and one of the things that we are in the process of doing after we spent the past few months determining scope, we still need to do a 5-year capital facilities plan for the district. And in that facilities plan, we would not only address what's in the 2019 project, we would also start to look at what would be in the 2022 project. And it would not be inclusive of everything that you might want to do in 2022, but it would address all of the issues that we found in the building condition survey.
I have a question. With reference to the sergeant makeup air unit and the unit vents that need to be replaced, is that something that affects the indoor air quality in the building?
It can. The makeup air unit is part of the kitchen ventilating system. You have a range hood and it's taking air out. You need to bring air in. And if you're not bringing it in through that makeup air system, it's coming in from other parts of the building, so the system still works. But that machine is on its way out, so it should be replaced. The unit ventilators would also, I think a lot of them are old. It's hard to find parts, so it can affect the air quality in the building. As far as we know, the systems are still working. They're creaking along. Mostly it's the unit ventilators, which are those units against the wall, under the windows, bring air in, and then you need to have air leave somewhere. And that's the other part of the system, the exhaust system. And if either one of those things aren't working correctly, you won't get the air changes that you need in order to, that FCD requires.
And is that something that's tested, or is it something that?
In terms of air quality?
Yes.
No. What we're looking at is the operation and function of the machines to make sure that they can still work. Okay. And those were found to be at the end of their useful life. They're at this close to failure. They're very close to failure. So it was recommended that they be replaced.
Are those things, because I remember we had some issues with the water at the high school, and maybe was at Sargent also. Like, is there air quality testing and water testing regularly?
The water was all tested because that was the state mandate.
Right.
And the air quality at times is tested.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that there's a potential issue. We have BOCES come in, so there has been air testing all over the district. We haven't had any problems with anything.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And just to remind the board, next board meeting, we're going to have the financial advisors coming to present as well in the fiduciary part of the budget. I need a motion for executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
To review the employment history of particular individuals for the purpose of discussion collective bargaining with the Civil Service Employees Association, the CSEA Food Service Unit, and to seek legal advice from the school attorney, state law attorney-client privilege.
Second.
Comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We do have some additions to the agenda. We are going to add 11.04 on the instructional personnel list. S, 1 through 3 for probationary teachers was added. T1 for a coach was added. And we're adding an addendum to the agenda, which will be 12.02, resolution number 080717A. And that resolution is, Kenny, you want to read it now? Kenny's going to read the full resolution.
Whereas Jason and Jennifer Edge, on behalf of their daughter, K.E., commenced a negligence action in Dutchess County Supreme Court against the district and district employees John Giametta, Brian Soltish, and Phyllis Manson, and former Superintendent Barbara Walkley. Whereas NYSAR appointed the law firm of Henderson and Brennan to represent the district and the individual defendants in this matter. Whereas the Board of Education has concluded, based on the allegations in the complaint, that there exists a legal basis to defend the named employees. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Education does hereby assume the defense of John Giametta, Brian Soltish, Phyllis Manson, and Barbara Walkley pursuant to Public Officers 18 and Education Law 3811. Henderson and Brendan will represent these individuals in the lawsuit.
Thank you. Was there anything else that need to be added or adjusted in the agenda that anybody saw? Seeing none, our first order would be student or school presentations. Seeing none, any parent groups? Open to the public. Any public comments? Yeah, there's nothing in that. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight a few things that have been happening. The community conversations that I was able to do the month of July were a great success. I was able to interact, if you add it all up, probably about 100 people at all the community conversations. We had them at different parts of the community at different times, and each conversation I talked a little bit about myself, but more importantly, I asked the folks to introduce themselves, but then to talk about strengths they saw in the district, challenges they saw the district facing, and things that they wanted either me to focus on or the district to focus on. And people were highly engaged in that process. So what that's led me to think about and start planning for is another round of community conversations. We hope to maybe do 2 more before the school year starts, and then to do a few more in September and October. I may go back to the same places and try some new places to see if more folks want to come out. I'll probably change up the format just a little bit, but it was a great way to interact with folks in the community. There's a lot of pride in the Beacon City School District, which was obvious, but then people wanting improvements in communication, people wanting more transparency, people also wanting more engaging and enriching opportunities for the young people in the district. One could probably say those things about a lot of school districts in the country, but I'm really excited that matches some of the things I knew going in, but also matches the board goals too that were adopted last May. So and along with those themes, dozens, if not hundreds, of sort of individual things people have asked me to think about or look into, which is just as powerful and just as helpful for me as I transition. In that same vein, I sent out an email a few weeks ago to all staff, not just teachers, but all staff in the district, to say, hey, give me 30 minutes and we can one-on-one do the same exact thing, talk about strengths, talk about challenges, talk about focus areas, and also just for me to get to know that person and vice versa. And so far I've met with a little bit over 40 folks, and right now I'm doing about 2 or 3 a day, depending on my schedule. So I also said to people that I'm happy to do it during the school year. My hope is that before the school year begins, I'm upwards close to about 100 people that I've met with. The goal, I said this last board meeting, the goal is by the end of this school year coming up that I've met with everybody. Some people are a little bit more comfortable in a small group, so I have started to meet with some people kind of in small groups so they can talk to me that way. And I will do, once the school year begins, this was an idea that came up in one of the community conversations. I'm going to do office hours in our schools and departments just so people can also just do a quick a quick conversation with me, because sometimes it's a bit of effort to come over to my office. So I'm very, very willing to meet people where they are. So that's been a really exciting start, and I will continue that part of the transition and start focusing it a little bit more as the school year goes. At the last board meeting, there was some public comment about homework, so we carried that conversation to the last policy committee meeting, and we developed a rough timeline. When this timeline gets a little bit less rough and a little bit more polished, we'll put it on the website. But what we decided with the policy committee of the board was that we wanted to start a look into the homework policy by gathering what our current practice is. So we will be canvassing principals this month about, just general homework homework practices in their buildings. And then a survey that will go out to teachers. We're not going to hit teachers with a survey the first week of school, but we do want to do it in September. Our first group of teachers that will focus on our elementary teachers, and then we will expand to secondary. We may just end up focusing on elementary. But we want to start with information. So we want to take that information both from principals and teachers and bring that back to the policy committee to see what our current practice is and see and look at the research a little bit more and see if there's changes to the district homework policy that we need to make. So depending on that conversation, depending on what we gather, we will form just kind of a working committee to look at homework. Certainly board members can be as large a part of it as they want, but we want teachers to be a part of this, administrators, and community members. And so we want to take a look at that information, take a look at the policy, form this committee, and kind of decide where we want to go. We don't want to take forever, but we also don't want to just jump in and make changes to something where we don't really know what our current state is, and so we want to establish that current state first. Back to communication. We made a couple tweaks to our website. We now have the district Twitter feed at the bottom of the district website. I know there are lots of other changes that people want and are expecting. This is a small one. But we do have that district Twitter feed. It now has 65 followers. Hopefully 100 by the start of school. But that, you know, again, a lot of people are turned off by Twitter, and I totally get that. But you can go on the district website at any time and see what the district Twitter feed is either saying or retweeting. The athletics, Beacon Athletics, just started on Twitter, and they've been very engaged. And I know I was at the meeting with coaches and parents earlier tonight, and I'll talk about that in a second. But most or all the coaches now are tweeting as well, and so expect a lot of retweets on the district website, or if you're on Twitter, you can start following those folks. And our schools, once the school year starts, we'll have all of our schools on Twitter as well. Again, not to emphasize Twitter, but it's a quick way to get the word out, and we will be posting a lot on the website that way. And then the last thing I want to say is just earlier this evening at 6 o'clock, we had our fall athletics meeting, and John Giamenez back there in the audience, but he gathered parents, athletes, and all the fall coaches to do an informational session. We had a great turnout for the first time ever doing it that way. It was in the auditorium, and so it was a great way for us to talk about just, you know, what to expect for student athletes this fall in all of our sports. And then the coaches each had either sections in the auditorium or different rooms in the building where they were able to talk with parents about their expectations for the year. So I think that was, again, back to that community engagement piece. I think it was a really great first step that we made there. Shouldn't have said that was my last comment, because I have one more. August 31st is our first superintendent's conference day. When we get to that day, I think I want to change what we call those days. I'm much more of a fan of calling those days professional learning days than superintendent conference days. But I'll officially change that when we get on that day. But on that day, we're going to gather all district staff in the auditorium at 8:30 to do a welcome back address. And I just wanted to publicly invite board members to attend on that day if they're free. We'd love to have you. And we will be setting the stage for the school year, talking about some themes that we'll be focusing on for the school year, and we're really excited to have everybody back on that day. And that day is much closer than it seems right now. But we're excited about kicking things off. And that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, including board comments. Kristen?
So we had a tentative date for the wellness committee this summer. We had to reschedule because it didn't work, but we still plan on having a meeting this summer, either in person or via teleconference, and in order to plan for some upcoming things, get a jump on the year, because as soon as September hits, we won't have much time.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I watched, and I'm glad that you brought up the homework policy. I thought there were some really interesting comments, and just anecdotally, I think it's very different from building to building, so it'll be interesting to hear what you find out, and then maybe get some cohesion around that issue. And then I know Meredith will touch on this, but I think that, I know I'm on the communications committee. I think we need to start to develop some more structured communication with the city of Beacon. I think she has some ideas about that. And that's it.
Thank you. Mike?
For the Facilities and Operations Committee, we had the presentation earlier today from Rhinebeck Architecture, and the intent of that was really to convey that the process about going through and methodically, going through all the buildings to come up with the surveys, categorizing those items, and then developing, a plan which really, when you look at it, the mix of, building, infrastructure, improvements, replacements because of aging, mixed with some, classroom improvements. We're getting rid of carpets, air conditioning in Rombout, and the turf field at Hammond. So really good mix of projects for this $8.9 million capital plan. Also, that we are, one of the goals this year is to develop that 5-year plan that we're talking about, which spans into 2022 for another opportunity to do building improvements and, depending how the district is going, because really that's, that we're looking at 5 years down the road, where is the district going, is there any major changes we need to make or improvements in our buildings? So it's going to be a good year. Also on August 28th, we're going to have the financial side of the capital plan to show you how the dollars work and how when we say that there will be no impact on the tax levy with the plan. We have, I put out to the members, I sent out a potential list of the meeting dates for the year, so I'll need to get feedback from the team members if that's acceptable, so we can get it over to Anthony for the calendar.
I actually, if you go to the shared Board of Education Committee, 17-18, I inputted all the dates on there, saying that all meeting times would be at 7 p.m., and I have it down for the next one as August 23rd. And then, I put down all the dates that you had provided to me, and I put it in there, so that's accessible to all board members. So if you're viewing it, and feel free, if you're like a representative of the wellness or the safety or technology or Duchess BOCES, you could go in there and edit and put your dates on there as well. So I made it that you guys could all edit it as well, and that's something that we could look, and it will kind of help Kelly out with the public advertising of the committee meetings as well. So feel free to put it in. I already put the F&O. If you want to send them to me and I'll input them, I can input them as well. So it doesn't matter. You did it, and it was great. So.
All right. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Meredith?
I want to thank John Giametta for fall athletics meeting tonight. That was great. I was not an athlete in high school, so this is all very new territory for me. And I did already get one, what's the word when you combine compliment and insult? Complisult? Saying tonight was great, should have happened in the spring. And I actually think that that's a great idea because just for people planning their summer vacations and things like that, some of the practices begin in the middle of August. So if people want to be around, I think it's helpful for them to know beforehand. But I thought tonight was great. I've already started to follow you guys on Twitter, and I'm very excited to get the news that way. A couple of other things. I wanted to see if we could, we don't have to go through it at this meeting, but I would love an update on which electives at the high school ended up getting run for the next meeting. I wanted to get an update on teacher hire status, what positions we haven't filled yet. Do you want to, we could do that in the next, maybe more will be filled then, but it would be great to know where we are with all of the different positions.
Would you like me to respond?
Yeah.
So I can give you a quick update.
Okay.
She'll notice that there's a number that are on the agenda, and then 3 more that were added as an addendum, so thank you for that. So there's 6 on for this evening. In addition to that, we're in hiring process. Some of them due to reposting needs, because the original search either didn't result in finalists accepting a position or qualified candidates for particular roles. We have 3 more teacher level positions that need to be filled. That they're in process. We've met with some finalists, but so those will be on an upcoming meeting agenda. We have 3 leave replacement positions at the middle school, high school level. In terms of the 3 teaching positions, we are in process of our tech teacher at the middle school, an elementary teacher position, and a high school science position, as well as a special education high school position. That's a leave replacement position. We're in process, midway through a process of interim AP, and we are in various stages of process of completion of TA positions. 3 due to filled for retirement purpose, and 3 due to other resignations and such. Some of our schools are moving forward with and have permanent sub-hires of various degrees of completion, but that will be, the rest will be, and you should anticipate for the next upcoming meeting. Substitutes, we have a number that are on the agenda for the evening, but also that's always an ongoing, you'll see more of those. So we're not at 100% completion, but in terms of where we are in the process, we are, at a healthy place in early August, because many of these that I mentioned that are not yet filled have moved to finalist rounds and just haven't come to final employment decisions or acceptance of offers, but are in process.
Okay. And where did we land with the music position, the .6?
So the .6 elementary principals and I are having a meeting this week now that we know exactly where all of our classroom enrollments are in the elementary schools and how many classrooms at every grade level, to finalize what those teaching sections look like across all of the special area subjects and the balance of all of that. So we haven't posted that position until we know for certain that there is an unmet need that needs to be filled by an additional partial FTE.
Okay, thanks. The other thing, a couple other things. One, I think that this came up at a community conversation, and I just wanted to pass it on to the policy committee, that a community member was interested in being able to comment publicly at policy meetings. Anthony, I don't know if we have a rule about that in our policy about do you know, Ken?
The best practice is if there's sufficient time at the end of the meeting, then that person would be able to make their comment. Usually there's no back and forth, which differs from I think the way some of the community members are participating in diversity.
Exactly. It seems like we run the diversity committee quite differently. So I just wanted to throw that. It sounds like it's a practice more than policy anyway, so it's sort of up to the chair of each committee, but it was mentioned. And I was wondering, I don't know if it would be part of the communications committee, or like a subcommittee of that committee, but I do think that we need to figure out what our communication with the city is going to be like, how it's going to go. Should we do that under unfinished business, or in terms of potentially, or do you think it should be less formal than that? And
I was going to talk about possibly board retreat before the board meeting on the 28th, and if it falls underneath communication, that could fit in. But there's a fine line is if it's public or if it would be executive session. I'd have to look at to see if that communication would have to be public, because the communication protocols that I was thinking about for the board retreats that Matt and I were discussing about are more executive session.
Yeah, that sounds a little different. I mean, this I'm thinking more of just like a designated liaison with the city. So we had our resolution. We didn't receive any formal response from that. I mean, we did receive information, so I think that was the acknowledgement of the resolution. The city.
I'm not sure.
Our resolution was to be an interested party with the right to comment on the seeker process,
right?
And development.
And since then we have received communication from Ethan Grogan, so there was something in the.
We got a letter from Jay Hughes.
Yeah.
I'm not recalling.
Oh, it's in the board docs.
Okay.
So I think there. So there was never okay, we got your letter and we get it. It was just okay. Here's your stuff, which is great.
I think they're two different things. I think that was to address a specific issue related to some imminent concerns that we had and wanting to be a part of the process and have information. It was my understanding, based on talking to you, I think what you're talking about is a little bit more almost like diplomacy.
It is more general than
Yeah.
that. Well, that's what I was getting to, is that,
Yeah.
you know, it's great that information is being passed back and forth, but in general, I think that if the city is willing to, you know, somehow have some sort of smaller committee that meets occasionally, I think that would be really good. Because we do, I mean, I definitely want to try to go to city council meetings more often, but we often have our committee meetings on Monday nights, on the nights that we don't have our board meetings, so it is hard to get there, and I think that it would be good to have some sort of more open line of communication.
Could it fit underneath the public relations committee?
That's what I was thinking, yes, it could.
So maybe when the public relations committee meets on the 10th,
Okay.
that's something
We can
that
talk about
they
it
could
with
talk
them.
about
That's a
it
good idea.
there.
Yeah.
And to see how we want to, public relations, reach out to the city.
I think that's a good idea, okay. The diversity committee meeting, I will say, since Anthony's not here, is on Thursday, the 10th as well, 8:15 p.m. at the district office. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was, I was thinking of this as more of an extension of the community conversation, but to have some sort of district open house once school started, where all members, all families were invited. You know, I sort of pictured some sort of potluck at the high school in the cafeteria. I got sort of like fine. Is that official? The fine? Should I like move forward with trying to find a date and?
I would like
or do
to
you-
couple it with an event, with
Well, I
another
was
event.
thinking-
So like
yeah.
if there's going to be, I know that in the fall we have homecoming, maybe coupling it with a homecoming, or coupling it, as I suggested, with the
19th event. Yeah.
August 19th. I think that if we couple it with an event, it would be beneficial for both, instead of doing a standalone.
I totally agree with you, and I was thinking that if we did do it as a standalone, we should bring in a speaker or something. You know, when Christine Galbo was a board member, she had some movies that she recommended, things like that. But I think homecoming is fine. Not only did I not participate in sports in high school, I did not participate in homecoming, so I'm not really familiar with that either. But
You're really
I
doing
don't
a deep dive late last time.
Anyway,
What's the event on the 19th? I'm sorry, I'm just getting them all.
it's an IM Beacon.
Oh, it's the IM
It's
Beacon?
the,
yeah.
it's the back-to-school block party.
That's right.
From 12 noon to 4 by the Loopers Court. So the IM Beacon is, they have flyers out in the community, and they've been reaching out to all the PTSOs and PTOs in the district, trying to get participation from them. They did have participation last year, and I think they're working with Anne Marie for the school bus or whatever again, so that we can have that.
I mean, that's maybe something that we could go on to, and I'm not meaning to overwhelm the Public Relations Committee, but reaching out to the PTSOs to see if we could couple it with the homecoming, to see if the elementary schools and how the participation was going to be,
Yeah.
to kind of amp up the homecoming, and as well as
Okay.
have that.
I think
kind
that's
of
a great
work on.
idea. Yeah. I just think something where people are, invited. I think that is, and I'm hoping it would become more of an annual.
Is there still an event at the DIA too?
There is. I'm meeting with them on Wednesday to talk about that, and that would be council members and board members, and, administrators invited to that. So I'll bring more information back on the 28th about that.
Good.
That's-
Thank you. Do you have a date for curriculum?
No. Celia, do we have a date for
No, not for summer. We'll start at the
I kind
end
of
of
thought
September.
that wouldn't, we wouldn't hear about that until
Okay.
school started.
All right. Bill?
Yes, just wanted to check sort of a follow-up to Meredith's on preparation for the new school year. We had a problem last year, I think, with some of the textbooks for some of the classrooms that they didn't come in time. I just wanted to make sure that we're on top of this year, that all the teachers who were supposed to have put in their forms have, or at least we think they have, as well as, for the private schools, that they're all in a timely fashion.
I
You don't have to answer now.
can speak to the private parochial section.
I can speak to school
Okay,
school days.
so private parochial, we have been processing the orders. We've actually reached out to a couple of schools that haven't sent their orders in to make sure that they're all in. But I've been going through the purchase orders and doing that, so that's on its way. So that's all taken care of.
As far as within our schools and departments, Mr. Wright has been actively pursuing if we didn't think we had orders that we were anticipating, and many of them had all of their material requests in. They're in process, and actually many are in a delivery process as we speak. So we're ahead of where we were a year ago.
Okay, great.
And hopefully, we've got all the pieces covered.
Anything Dutchess County School Board? Yeah.
Now, I mean, the first meeting will be the first Thursday in September.
Okay.
It was jarring not to have you start that way.
Yeah, they don't do anything in the summertime, so it's kind of dark.
Was that done? Thank you. Kenny? Nothing? You don't want to do a reminder about Iron Beacon? The 19th, what was it, at Lupus Plaza?
It's at Lupus Plaza. It's from 12 to 4.
All right, I wanted to reach out to the board to see for a board retreat, if we could do something prior to the board meeting. I have a small one from 6 to 7 o'clock. It would be executive session board retreat, just for an hour to talk about communication and how we're going to communicate as a board with the district office and so forth.
That's the 28th.
28th.
I have it in my calendar already. I think that's right.
Yeah, but this is kind of a reminder. I just wanted
Sure.
to do the.
Okay.
So Kaylee will advertise that as a 6 o'clock start.
Canceling my vacation, and I hope there'll be wraps there. That's all. Just as purpose.
No reps. Unless you bring them. What was the other thing?
Need for an additional meeting? I think we can do this over email.
No, that was it. Oh, we do have the diversity committee meeting coming up Thursday at 8:15, and the public relations committee meeting same date at 7 o'clock, both at district office.
Wait, both of them at 7 o'clock?
No.
8:15 for
Public relations 7,
Okay, sorry.
diversity 8:15.
And safety still wants that.
Safety, there's nothing over the summer there?
Safety, we are looking to schedule on the 20th, 29th, or 30th. We're just working on finalizing that, so I hope to have that set by Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
On August 28th, we're going to have the financial part for the capital project. I'm just hoping it comes to me before we go. And presentation on the tax levy.
And the warrant.
And the warrant.
Because we'll speak, the board will be adopting the tax warrant on that meeting as well.
Okay. Okay.
Are you still thinking?
Go ahead.
I have a question for Dr. Landau. I mean, I think it was regarding your community conversations. I think it's really a great fresh start for your tenure here. I'm glad that we had so many people come from your experience. Do you see any ways to increase the number of people, participants that you can get them to come more? Do you think it's maybe advertising or venues or things will kind of spread as we consistently go through this? I'm looking for your view on that.
Yeah, we the participation in the events, like I said, was really positive. But if you looked at the attendees, it didn't represent the diversity of the student population in our district, and so I've started to brainstorm some ideas. I've been talking with Lorraine Hextall from the NAACP a little bit, and so we're looking at some new locations for meetings. I'm looking into attempting to do. Obviously, I would. Well, don't know this. I can't speak Spanish, but I would need an interpreter with me. But to do at least 1 or 2 community conversations in Spanish with an interpreter. I'm going to try to drum up some interest in this by, I don't have a list of this yet, by doing little sort of announcements in some churches on Sunday morning. And I'll be brief when I go in, I promise. But but just trying to get the word out in ways other than sort of like the social media newsletter kind of way, like that sort of face-to-face word. So we're looking at doing a session at the Beacon Housing Authority, the community room there. So my hope is by that, really in the next week or two, that I have kind of like another round established. So, I think part of it, you asked about my experience with this, I think part of it is people start to kind of feel like you're not going anywhere, and you're like you're going to keep doing this until somebody shows up, and so I'm pretty persistent that way. So I'll keep trying to meet people, and also things like childcare sometimes, food, different things. So it's not set, but I am very motivated to do like another round, and I'm happy whoever comes. But looking at the diversity of the attendees is certainly something I pay attention to.
Good, thank you.
And I remembered. So it was about the board goals. I know that we adopted the board goals for the remainder of the 16-17 school year. However, I feel like they haven't really changed, and Matt has been referring to them in his community conversations. But I think at the next board meeting on August 28th, I would like to take formal action and adopt them for the 17-18 school year. I just wanted to get board members' feelings before going forth and doing that.
I'm interested in doing that. I know you're using it to frame your community conversations, but any feedback that you've gotten that maybe would be useful to adapt the goals to make them more appropriate or on target for what we should be achieving would be really helpful to hear.
I think, right now at least, I think the real work is in developing action plans around the goals, and then measuring whether we're, accomplishing different sort of subsets of those goals. So I'm more interested in that side. I feel like the goals give me a really good framework, and the district a good framework for moving forward. So this is just my opinion, but I think now I'm more focused on what are the action steps we're going to do to get there, because they're lofty, which is good. Boards should have lofty goals, but so what are the 100 steps we're going to do to eliminate barriers to student participation in X, Y, and Z? There's a lot that goes into that. And so, developing measurements, developing action plans, that's what we're starting to work on now. Goals can always be tweaked a little bit, and I would leave that up to all of us to look at. I'm not getting direct feedback about the wording of the goal needing to be changed. I think, the proof is in what we do with them. So I'm more interested in that side right now.
It wasn't necessarily about the wording, but
yeah.
Do they match what you're hearing? Like, we're talking about one thing here. Is it consistent with what you're hearing?
They for sure match what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I the last one I did, I kind of rattled them off the top of my head, and the one I couldn't remember was the community engagement one, so that was kind of a big laugh, But they completely are in line, I think, with what I'm hearing. So, good job, board.
Alrighty. All right. Any unfinished business? I didn't have any that I needed to recall. So the consent agenda. So the use of consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Is there any item from the consent agenda that the board member would like removed?
1104H.
1104H.
Yeah.
Any other items?
Yes, 1103, can't get the one down, A, alpha. 1104 alpha. And 1106 and 1109.
Any others? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda 11.02 through 11. 11.14 minus 11.04H, 11.03A, 11.04A, 11.06, and 11.09.
So moved.
Bill, is there a second?
Second.
Kenya, comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6-0. All right, 11.04H. I need a motion to approve 11.04H.
Motion to approve 11.04H.
Meredith Hewer, is there a second?
Second.
Mike Rukowski, comments or questions? Go ahead, Meredith.
So I was just hoping you could, we've talked a lot about teachers on special assignment, and so just hoping you could speak a little bit to their roles and what they're doing.
I'm going to ask Cecilia to answer that. One thing before she starts, we've been talking about the way we are organizing our work at the district office, and for right now and moving forward for this year, Cecilia is the person who deals with human resources on the instructional side, Anne Marie on the non-instructional or non-certified side. So I'm going to have Cecilia talk about that one.
So teacher on special assignment, we have 2 on the agenda for this evening. We have 5 in total for the district. One serves the role of CSC, CPSE chairperson. That was on the last meeting agenda for your authorization. In item H, number 1 is for one of the 3 teacher on special assignment positions for library media specialist. Those are staff within our districts and within their schools that have served in that function for a number of years, but are on special assignment because their certification area lies in elementary education. In the 4th school, it's not a teacher on special assignment position because when that was a vacant position, we were able to successfully hire someone that had a library media certification. And so they weren't an existing employee, they were an external hire a couple of years ago. So that's why 3 of the schools have that position and the 4th one does not. Item 2 in H is for it's a trade out, if you will, of a reading teacher position at Sargent Elementary that came at Mr. Archer's recommendation when he assessed what the needs were of having a reading teacher position, FTE, assigned, and what the needs of youngsters within the school were for remedial reading instruction, which would warrant a reading teacher versus supplementary support and instruction to the general class instruction in reading and writing, which is an AIS position. So we went through this over the last several months of the spring, and his recommendation was that that it was more of an AIS position, which is filled by an elementary teacher. We don't have AIS teaching assignment roles, and that's why that's a special assignment in item H.
And is that the only elementary school that has that?
That has that and designated that way, yes.
And it's just due to the different needs of
Yeah, it's partly one, there was a vacancy of position, assessment of among the staff who had the skill set and who had the interest in the position, and then understanding what student needs were that was really driving, whether it was going to be an internal reassignment of role versus an external search for a different area of expertise.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. Before we go on to the next item,
I just wanted to offer congratulations to Michael Carafano. He's in our audience today. He's appointed as the new PE teacher at Sargent Elementary. We are very excited to have him full-time as Sargent and can't wait to start. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
11.03A, I need a motion to approve 11.03A.
Motion to approve 11.03 alpha.
A second.
Second.
Comments or questions? Mike?
under Alpha, under resignations, for those personnel who are leaving the district, have we sat down and discussed any reasons they can exit interview, reasons or benefits or things we can do better as a district? Usually people may offer things up more when they're resigning.
Did you pull the resignations for both certified
Yes, I did.
and
That's why I
uncertified?
pulled both of them.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we have to do that one too. So I'm looking at the non-certified staff now, and some of them you will see in another area. So some of them are resigning and they're staying in the district. They're just doing a different title. Some have to do with retirement or other positions, but if I haven't had a conversation with them, the director in their department has, and then gave me the information that way, if I haven't done it directly. As far as the certified staff, I'm just pulling it up.
So under the resignation, I'll just jump in.
Go ahead.
Under the resignations for the certified staff.
Hold on, just hold on 1 second. Let's
Okay.
finish that up first before we go there.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions about the 11.03A, Mike?
Well, if we do have those conversations, are we looking to really gather the information and see what changes or common threads that we maybe should take into account and make changes against?
Ask me again, because I'm
If
sorry.
there are comments and feedback provided, are we gathering that and then actually looking at action plans or ways to use that information to help
As more of a
make changes
retention
in-
kind of plan? Is
Not
that
just
what you mean?
retention, but just how the district operates. Could be really anything that they've seen over their tenure here, whether not tenure meaning tenured, but for the time they're here, they may say, hey, we could really do things more efficiently if we do things this way or that way, or
Okay.
so really those are really important nuggets of information that we could use to leverage improvement from an operational standpoint.
People tend to be more honest when they don't have any concern about having to show up at work.
Okay. So that's a piece that we haven't been doing, and I know you've mentioned that, but I think it's something now that we can start doing as we start formalizing it a little bit more, so,
Okay, good.
okay.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. Any motion for 11.04A?
And motion to approve 11.04 Alpha instructional personnel.
Is there a second? Okay. Comments or questions?
Same question versus right now on the resignations.
So it's the same question, certainly in the matter of whose resignations are on the agenda here. There's several variety of reasons and some of what their personal and family needs are in terms of taking them to areas outside of the district, as in some cases. And some was about availability for summer writing. In terms of the formalizing of an exit interview process and a closeout procedure, we're not at a formal level of that, but certainly that's the next stage of work, and I think we can make that consistent between instructional and non-instructional, and then be able to gather that information, what we learn.
Yeah, that would be, I would like to see that,
Yeah.
especially if we can formalize it in our, whatever procedure we may have would be really good.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. 11.06. I need a motion to approve 11.06.
Motion to approve 11.06.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meredith? Comments, questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Right, on the claims audit report dated August 1st, 2017. Okay, you have that one open. It's, let's see. It's line item by check number 26264 for Hotline Creations. Looks like the check amount was $19,289. So I'm just wondering, I know we also, the next one's a contract for Hotline Creations. So I'm wondering what this was for, and was it for the prior school year, or is this for the new work in since?
It's actually an accrual, so it's for last year, so we had to accrue it back into the prior year. And it's also more than what you may ask for the contract amount going forward. Some of the costs that we reimburse Hotline, so they actually do the printing. So the printing is paid for through the company, and then it gets invoiced back through us as kind of a pass-through. So the contract is for the services related, to the public relations and the preparing of the newsletters, but he actually takes care of mailing them out, and so there's a fee for that, actually going to the printer, having them printed up and mailed, so that's a different amount, so that's all kind of included in there.
Is that the same contract, or is it specified in the contract that those kind of fees will be separate?
They're paid separately, so we don't always pay the vendor separately. We pay through Hotline. So if Hotline has, the process of mailing it and going to the mailer, you'll see on the invoice a portion that relates to his services and a portion that's the printing and the mailing costs.
Because I have to review the contract to make sure that that's covered under his contract, or, because that sounds like it would be a purchase order.
So the mailing part goes through we have a meter account, that the district does. But the printing part of it, if he's taking care of doing the printing part of that, then there's an extra fee that he doesn't do the printing himself. So I'd be curious to look as well, but the contract is really relating to his public relations and his preparation of the newsletter. And
Right, so this was actually based on a contract from last year?
yes.
Okay, so that's...
And that's just the budget newsletter.
No, that is not, it depends on what we used him for. So,
Well, and I remember he's supposed to invoice when he comes and does things.
yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it would be really interesting to see specifically what he's done, because I know I do see him come with what.
He did a couple last year that I could get off the top of my head.
Well,
I think it's
I feel
actually a
like-
question of what, yeah, he shows up for sure. I've seen him, and I actually asked him at the Calico Ball, what happens with all this that, you're taking pictures, and he said, well, I just give it to the district. So I feel like,
Yeah, the same with the wellness committee. We had that elementary wellness night, and he came with his camera. But then when I asked about it in the meeting, it was like, well, he could have been there for his son or his, he's a district parent. So how do we differentiate when he's coming, and then what ends up happening with all the, when it goes to the district? I know I asked Karen Pagano if the loop ever closed, it would have been great to have pictures of that night and to be able to put it on the website and share. I know for the Calico Ball, all the pictures that are on the website are Meredith's, donated.
Yeah. The plan is, it's not highly detailed right now, but the plan would be that he would work directly with me, since communications would be a big part of what I do. And, I have some ideas about doing more electronic communication, a more frequent newsletter that's less mailed to everybody and more available online, and limited sort of physical copies. I want to work with him regarding the board goals and working on some communications with the district staff around the board goals. So communications is a big part of what I do. There's another person on the team now, that's me. He'll be working with me. I'll have a clearer idea of what I'm asking him to do, and what he'll be doing in the district next year. I can't speak to it more eloquently than that. I've had one meeting with him where we started talking about these things, and then my thought was I wanted to have this contract continue. So we were able to do some of the basic stuff like the budget mailer, but also some more, to update the photography. As you pointed out, we tend to use those same pictures. They're wonderful. Thank you. But they're the ones that are been on the website for quite a while. So we have a lot of sort of refreshing to do, and I want to use them with that too. But it's a plan that needs to be fleshed out a little bit.
I'm good with 11.06.
Yes, that's all my questions on those.
Any other questions on 11.06? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. 11.09.
Motion to approve agenda item 11.09.
Is there a second?
second.
Meredith?
Go ahead.
So this is the agreement with Hotline for this upcoming year. So I was wondering what, you think the scope of work seemed kind of loose. I was wondering really what we expected, their services to be for this year. It's gonna be similar,
I think, well, I think, I can say what my personal concern becomes is if we got billed $19,000 for last year where I don't think anyone really understood what he was doing, how much is it gonna cost this year, you know, when you, sounds like you really have a lot of work for him to do, so, I mean, do we?
So I thought that he was that he actually did the printing. So,
He did for the.
but no, it sounds like he subcontracts the printing. He's not a printer.
He's not a printer.
So we pay a fee for him to subcontract the printing.
We pay for the printing. We pay for the printing that actually.
Okay, and there's no like service charge on top of that for him to administer that or anything like that?
No, not to my knowledge, there isn't. I mean, I've reviewed the invoices, but I don't see any surcharge or anything. It's just the printing cost.
so I don't see, like, I just reread through the contract, this contract, and I don't see any discussion of printing and those kind of services in this contract, so just want to make sure that we're clean, you know, that we've got that covered appropriately. It does have the $15,000 cap, and also that he's supposed to invoice on a monthly basis, so it really shouldn't be accruing $19,000.
Yeah, I feel like we've asked about this. I don't want to go back to the old item. It's just a little confusing because I feel like we've regularly asked about this, and so then to suddenly have an accrual is just kind of surprising. But that's just a statement. There's no need to answer it.
Yeah. It seems, and I'm a little bit new to working with him, obviously, but it seems like part of the issue here is differentiating between what gets billed for printing and then he has that hourly rate in there, right?
Yes.
So there's an hourly rate and how much of it actually is his hourly rate. So, you know, I'm okay getting a little bit more clarification and bringing it back.
It would be great just to have the pictures too from last year. Just because, I mean, it's not that old. It would be good to
Right, I mean,
find out
the
what
library,
happened.
the district should be, I can say as a photographer, the district should be building a library from the pictures that, you know, and that could be crowdsourced too. That doesn't just have to be from him. But when I've worked for other educational institutions, I go and I shoot for a certain amount of time, and I give them, like, you know, sometimes 1,000 pictures that they can pull from. So I think, I think the pictures are important to what you want to do, but it's also there's another element to what you want to. I guess as a photographer, I feel like, well, he's not a photographer. He's taking pictures when he goes to things, and that's helpful. But I think that the other element is maybe should definitely feel like a strong fit.
But it's not helpful if they don't go anywhere. If it's specifically for the purpose of public relations.
No, absolutely. I mean, are any of the?
I want to say that there have been some events that he did that were published. So the newsletter when Matt came on board, when we welcomed him, that was something that he published.
It published on the website, or where did that get published?
That paper published. It was mailed.
It was a mailer. Yeah.
So that's something that was a finished product that's right off the top of my head. Then it was like the budget was done.
But is that $19,000?
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying off the top of my head, I do know that there were some final products. I don't know, like the event of that wellness. I don't know. I didn't see a final product, and I think that's what you were asking.
Right, and so to the point of like something that we've talked about over and over again, like if we don't get ahead of communications, and I know it's one of our goals, and that's one of the things Matt's going to work on, but it's like then some things get written about the district, and that's more reactive. But I think I can say at that event specifically, it was confusing because if I didn't think that there would be, if I assumed there would be pictures that would suddenly show up someplace when I saw a public relations person that is contracted by the district come with their camera. If I didn't realize that, I would have just gone around with my smartphone and started taking pictures so that, or I would have brought a camera so that then that really nice event could have been celebrated on the district website, and then also go to the local newspapers or things like that. So we would have a photo, and the Calico Ball. When you see someone there with a camera, you assume that those pictures go somewhere. I guess it's just where that loop gets closed.
It just needs to be communicated to you as a board as to, hey, there's going to be a photographer to publicize the event or not.
Well, and it would be nice
Basically.
to ask him to turn over his library of photos that he's taken in the district. And actually, that reminds me of one other semi-related thing that every year when I've photographed things for the district, there's always been this like kind of looking for releases, and it's very easy. And I think we sort of do a more general release at the elementary school level, or do you know?
Yeah. There's going to be a negative on.
Yeah.
Cecilia said last time.
So we are doing that this year.
We have a negative declaration
for
that's
district-wide.
district-wide that's been shared as a template for the principals and should be either going into their welcome back mailings or their, when students start and come home with all of their
That's great.
material. So yes.
So then we can.
That's
then,
done.
Then you really can
Principals have it.
crowdsource the
Mhm.
images and
Yeah.
use them for.
So I would recommend that we add some of these details into the contract, so, documenting that, pictures turned over or some kind of timeframes. Because another thing that needs to be cleared up is item 11, that the consultant retains sole and absolute discretion in the judgment and manner and means of carrying out the services, activities, and responsibilities hereunder. I really think it needs to be under the direction of somebody to be really manage this, just to, to tighten up the contractual language. It's a risk for us. So, I would recommend, making some adjustments to this contract, maybe representing it.
So you're making a motion to table it?
We could table it. I could table it. No. So I'm going to make a motion to table 11.0. What was it? 11.09. And for this table it for this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there comments or questions about tabling 11.09?
I think we're willing to take your recommendation that we should have this, that if about, renewing this contract, it would just be helpful to have the specifics of how it will go forward described a little bit better.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. So 11.09 is tabled, Kelly. All right, we have an addendum to the agenda, which is 12.02, which was resolution 080717A. It's as it read before, which was to appoint counsel for defense of a suit that was filed in the Dutchess County Court. Does anybody need the resolution read again, or you guys remember it as it was read before? Okay. I need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I had Kristen and then I had Kenya. Comments or questions? Kenya got the second.
She sounds like her voice is.
You said it louder, but she said it sooner.
Okay, just want to make sure it's recorded the right.
Yep.
Moment it's recorded, that's all.
And that's why I
It's
repeated it.
it's so easy to confuse them. Sound crazy.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0. Meeting adjourned at 10:07.